Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Joined as always, or mostly always, by my co-host Andrew Champagne here, drinking champagne coming at you. Andrew, how you doing?
I've had myself quite the day, Josh. Between an entire new social media platform launching hours before we recorded this podcast, and another thing that happened to me late this afternoon, it's been a wide range of emotions and thought processes that have happened for me this afternoon. How you holding on, man?
Pretty good. Did your friend Ben have time for you?
No, but my credit card had time for some stranger.
Oh,
So,
um,
yes, I got an alert from my friends at Chase Bank that a transaction had occurred at a barbecue restaurant called Famous Dave's. It's a chain, and I had not eaten at a Famous Dave's. So I said, no, this wasn't me. And they canceled my card. And they said, please go into your account, view your account history, and if any other transactions seem fishy, let us know. Someone somewhere got a hold of my card, and without divulging exactly how much money they spent on stays at what appear to be luxury hotels, exhausted most of my credit limit. Yeah. Now, credit where it's due to the folks at Chase because those charges are going to be completely erased in the next 24 to 48 hours once they realized, oh, wait, there's no possible way this guy could have done all of this stuff. We're going to work with this guy. So, shout out to them for some customer service. And I was able to get that rectified in one single 8-minute phone call, which I think is sort of unprecedented. But yeah, that was a nice cardio workout for me at about 4:15, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do have to mention the boo was because you said after your credit limit was exhausted, credit where credit is due to Chase. So that was that mid boo for making the credit joke about
That
Chase.
wasn't a joke. That was just me looking for words and not being able to find any because I'm exhausted. I've been up since 4:45 this morning bringing my father to San Francisco Airport and somehow dodging a whole bunch of traffic. Trust me, Josh, when I want to tell a really horrible joke, you'll know it. Yes, and then you'll
Because you'll
be
hear
able to hit
that.
the
That's
button.
that. I mean, the audience will also know because I'll be hitting that button. So
Of course, but the audience will still go down and hit all of the buttons because they like us so much.
exactly. Like, subscribe, download, find every single podcast app you have and download. But I do have to mention to you, Andrew. It's rare that I ever get feedback on episodes outside of Mark catching strays, in which he's like, "Come on, like really? That's what you're gonna come on me?" But my friend Bill said he was playing our latest episode in the car, and they were getting out of him and his son were getting out of the car, and his son goes, "You should play that podcast more. I like it." So shout out to
Can we play the
Bill
applause
and
button?
yeah, shout out to Bill and his son Liam. So
You know what we need? We need not just an applause button. We need the theme from Bill Nye the Science Guy, specifically the part where they go, Bill, 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 Bill.
oh man, so I went to a work conference and um, they did a skit based off of Bill Nye, and it was it Riz Nye, the radiology guy? Because
Oh.
yeah, it was pretty. Oh no, it wasn't that one. It was this one. But yeah, uh, yeah, it's yeah. We'll have to look at it. I have a lot of buttons on this soundboard. It's funny. When I first got it, I set it up. I got what I thought were all the things I needed, and then I just like have not changed it. there's I have multiple pages I can use and stuff. So I still need to play around with it a little bit. But we'll it'll be a work in progress. But I do, we're going to talk a little bit about Saratoga, coming up in Saratoga meet. Um, you know, it's been a tough couple couple weeks of racing. Um, Churchill not running, I think, has really soured a lot because you could kind of tell that I don't think people were as excited to send horses to Ellis Park. NBC was also not excited to go to Ellis Park, and the fact that they decided not to televise the Stephen Foster Stakes, although they previously were going to. There were logistical problems there from what I heard, but Churchill not running at Ellis, I think that kind of diminished things. Belmont always just stinks, and then you obviously have Losal daytime, so it's just a rough time. And okay, I'm sure there's
Pleasanton,
Pleasant, yeah.
Josh.
Uh, and I'm sure if Road Warrior listens to this, he will let me know that Belmont, in fact, does not stink.
Belmont does not stink. You are just salty because your least favorite jockey won not one, not two, not three, not four, but five races in one card. Much like with King Kong Bundy, three ain't enough. He needs five. Fun fact, King Kong Bundy choked me out at a photo op of an independent wrestling show in Wildwood, New Jersey when I was in middle school. If you find me on Venmo, you will see a picture of young Andrew selling a chokehold from Bundy while that era's iteration of the Patriot just stands there with his thumb up, not doing much of anything.
Jeez. Um, but we're gonna be pretty Saratoga focused this episode, just talking a little bit about the stuff kind of around Saratoga. People maybe taking trips, people looking to stay. Maybe, and obviously this this information is pretty late to the party if you were planning a trip, but maybe for next year it'll be something that you can kind of reference. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Naira and Saratoga and didn't shout out our friend, Mr. Matthew DeSantis. Congratulations, Matthew, on the new position with Naira. Um, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. He's just always just super positive, and uh, he's always just willing to help us out. We've obviously gone back and forth doing each other's shows, and I appreciate him always filling in on late notice, putting out great content. Obviously, he's just a super nice guy. Met him, and he's just as nice as can be. So, couldn't have happened to a better person. Andrew, you texted me something earlier today, and I think you said it best. What was it that you texted me earlier?
Well, I texted you a couple of things earlier today. I got to cycle through my brain as far as which one of those would be appropriate to say on camera. But
Maybe it
the
was a
one
tweet.
thing,
Maybe it was a tweet. What was your tweet?
the tweet is one of my favorite sayings, and it's something that has motivated me through some rough times personally and professionally. And that is doers recognize doers. It's how things get done in a world full of red tape. You could not log on to horse racing Twitter and not see some of the stuff that Matt DeSantis was doing for any number of different brands and entities, or just for himself. The guy busted his ass for a very long time and wound up doing enough, not just to get a job with Naira, but to get a job with Naira from an industry that wasn't horse racing. It's tough to make that kind of a career change and to be able to do that in such a way to where he's moving up to New York, starting another chapter of his life. I could not possibly be happier for this guy. This guy deserves it.
Oh, I'm trying to find your exact. No, you were right.
Thank
Nope,
you.
that was
Every
that
once
was the
in a
correct thing.
while, I get to be right.
I think I confused that tweet with the other tweet that I just completely memed you on, which was Saratoga has a racing museum. Where you said in the situation of worst possible outcomes, this is a rare bright spot. So, but before Andrew chastised me for that joke, I know the Racing Hall of Fame is in Saratoga. I've never been, but I know it's there.
So I'm going to go through my reaction and my thought process. If any of you out there have seen the South Park episode where they all play World of Warcraft, Josh, you would be Butters in this instance, being very late to the party on that. And I would probably be whoever it was that said, Butters, download the game before we all murder you. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm hopefully, I'm sure Matt will be able to fill in every once in a while for us over here. We're gonna have a lot of shuffling, I think, going on in the next couple months. With certain people getting busier, and we're gonna figure stuff out. But yeah, big shout out to Matt. I wish I had concrete plans to go up to Saratoga to meet up with him, and maybe even you, Andrew. But
That's all right.
it's been I don't know, it's been just super expensive when I've been looking at places, and
It's
and the
not going to get cheaper. I'm starting to look at my Vegas trip in November for Thanksgiving. Plane fares are ridiculous.
yeah, I booked as many fares as I could during that Southwest sale that they had.
Mhm.
Dude, I was booking flights I don't even know if I'm gonna take, but I was just like, they were so cheap, and I'm like, I don't know if this is coming back. So I booked a vacation over a work conference on accident. So I had to beg for forgiveness on that one. And yeah, it's just crazy. I tried to change that flight, and they wanted like $400, which is more than I paid to book the flight in order to change it. So yeah. Yeah, stuff's been getting expensive. That's most of the reason I'm not going to Saratoga. I am going to Vegas instead, but that just happens to be because A, I don't have to pay for a hotel there, and B, I was able to get round trip flights for about $100.
That'll
So
work.
with points and gift cards and other stuff. So, but yeah, Saratoga starting, and Andrew, I know you're gonna approach this, I think, much differently than I am. Like for me, I kind of just treat Saratoga as just another meet. Um, at some point I was doing replay work for it, and I would watch every single race at Belmont, make notes for the horses running back in Saratoga. But I mean, there's always trends and stuff like that. There's stats. Everyone, if you go on Twitter, Ed DeRosa will have some 1 for 950 stat that's gonna get boomed.
And he
And
will go insanely contrarian just to prove he's the smartest guy in the room. Yeah.
well, he sometimes he is. In fact, he was the second smartest guy in the room a couple Saturdays ago when he finished second to Tony Joe. So, we'll give Ed DeRosa another
Okay.
victory lap there. But yeah, I've at least for me, the way um, I've approached a lot of horse racing sometimes is I try to distance myself from um, I don't want to say biases, because if I say that, then they're like, oh, you don't believe in bias? No, but like human biases, you know what I mean? Like I try to um, I've been trying to downplay the Saratoga meet. As great as it is, as much fun as it is, like you got to treat it. You got to treat it the same as if I'm betting the Cinnabon Downs on a Wednesday.
No, no, you don't.
No, I'm
No.
wrong.
Yes. With regard to Saratoga, yes. Take it from the guy whose reputation is as tied to one track as anybody on horse racing Twitter. Yes, you're wrong. You are absolutely wrong. Saratoga is its own beast for any number of reasons. You mentioned Belmont and watching replays. There are a couple of things you need to keep an eye on first and foremost if we're talking the differences between Belmont and Saratoga. For starters, not a lot of two-turn dirt races at Belmont Park. Everything is one turn with the exception of the marathon races, and there are some horses that really want to go 2 turns. You can't possibly emphasize that enough in some instances, especially when you're talking about the Wilson Chute or mile and an eighth dirt races. Really wish they had more of those mile and an eighth dirt races, but there aren't a lot of mile and an eighth dirt horses anymore, Josh. So we live with what we've got. Look at the 2 turn form from tracks like Aqueduct. And if you see that the 2 turn form is markedly better than the 1 turn form, emphasize that accordingly. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, Josh, they say there's turf at Belmont Park. It's not turf, it's green pavement. You see 25 claimers going miles in 133 and change. Something's very wrong. Saratoga's turf course is much more lush. It's a little slower, and there's a lot more 2 turn racing to be had. So, again, I'm not saying throw out the Belmont form. I am saying look a little deeper than the last couple of starts, especially early in the meet for horses that want to go 2 turns and are getting the chance to do that for the first time in months.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like betting a Gate shipper at Assiniboia Downs on Wednesday, which is what I'm saying.
Golden Gate Fields has shippers that run at Assiniboia Downs on
It does.
Wednesdays.
Yeah. Look at
Find me one.
well, I don't know if there was one running today, but
Oh, of
uh,
course. Of course. I
I
put
just
you
bet
on the
I just bet
spot and you
speed
can't
today.
deliver. I
I
put him
just
on the spot, folks. He could not deliver. He couldn't cut the mustard when the pressure was on.
I have to actually pull up a form. I don't remember stuff like that, Andrew. If it's not on the form in front of me, I don't remember.
Hey, if you keep going like this, we're going to have to talk about Charge It being a lock to win by about 40 on Saturday. And I know that's the last thing you want to do.
We definitely do not need to talk about that because he's not a lock.
I completely agree with you. But I personally am hoping that he runs off the screen so that Mark can try to justify him over Cody's Wish in the Whitney.
Dude, do you know that just my favorite thing in the past couple months is you saying, "Can we stop making Charge It being a thing?" And then Mark saying, "Can we stop making Forte being a thing?" And people just jumped on Mark for some reason for him saying that. It was pretty good. Um, no, I mean, I, I I think you bring up good points, especially about the turf at Belmont, and that's something I know Mark and Caleb have talked about before and have mentioned. Um, when you get these horses that have run well, like going 6 furlongs at Belmont, or no, not run well, going like 6 furlongs at Belmont, that they're often worth a look sometimes at Saratoga just because the turf courses, especially going short, are so different. But yeah, I guess when I say downplay, I meant I'm more like I'm not gonna play more. Like it's not like all of a sudden like my bankroll is gonna triple because Saratoga's running. Um, I try to kind of keep an even keel when it comes to betting, depending on the day and the track. I mean, obviously, like on a Tuesday night, I'm not sending the same amount in Mountaineer, than I am
How
on
dare
Saratoga
you?
Saturday.
How dare you, Josh? How dare you not allocate money for races at Royal Mountaineer, as my friend Peterberry calls it?
Oh, Royal Mountaineer, but you know, uh, largely, I think whatever I bet this weekend at Belmont, it'll be largely what I'll bet opening weekend at Saratoga. Um, so that's what I meant. Like, I'm not trying. I mean, there's work that you can do, and there are trends like you said. Just hey, David Donk on a Sunday. Shout out to my friend Tommy who
Let's also not forget the all-time greatest equipment change in the history of Saratoga: Christophe Clement salmon pants on.
salmon pants on. I've not heard that one before.
Oh, it'll happen. Just watch for the salmon pants, and when he's wearing the salmon pants, run, don't walk to the window.
What about first off acclaim off of Chad Summers?
I'm not going to bash Chad Summers. I'm not going to do it. He was a handicapper of record in the Saratoga Special long enough to where there's an unspoken code, an omerta, if you will, among print handicappers that one of them violated a couple of years ago, and I have not forgotten. So, yeah.
Is he or she on the bottom of that horse thing majig you got for putt putt?
No, no. And by the way, the horse thingamajigger that I have, I will be getting ready to defend in just about a month. Of course, I am referring to the trophy for the Friendlies Mini Golf Invitational. It is a tea kettle with a jockey looking sideways at about 90 pounds overweight and a horse clearly crying out saying, "This is bullshit. What the hell is going on here?" And he mentioned underneath, you see that last name down the bottom. That is, of course, me after thumping Joe Neville's and Natalie Voss last year when I was in town for the Racing and Gaming Symposium. This year, I'll be in town the week before, August 9th to the 13th, and I am very much looking forward to adding my name on that list as one of the first reigning champions, not named COVID or Rainout.
Rainout's a good name for a horse,
I'm sure it's been taken.
I'm sure. Hey, Dugout like was a fairly recent horse.
Yep.
That name stuck around for a little bit. But I guess Andrew, you as a public handicapper for the pink sheet, um, what else? I mean, what are you doing? Like you're looking at this a little bit differently, I think, than I am, right? Because I'm looking at playing pick fives, like every single pick five that they run at Saratoga. You're looking at putting out, public picks for the entire meet. Um, there's a different strategy. I think is the word I'm looking for. Different strategy for both those tasks. So as a public handicapper, what are you trying to do? What is your preparation for it, and what is it that you're trying to put into the public handicapping part?
So I'm doing a couple of different things at once, and some of that has to do with my upbringing. I grew up reading the New York Daily News, which had analysis and selections from, among others, a gentleman by the name of Russ Harris, who I firmly believe is the best to ever do what he did. He swept several cards at Belmont Park in his heyday. He worked for the Daily News for decades and was so freaking good at everything that he did. He had that as the selections and brief analysis. And the other part of the Daily News that I really enjoyed reading was a section called The Battle of Saratoga. And the Battle of Saratoga were three full time handicappers. Yes, three full time handicappers on one newspaper staff. My goodness, how times have changed, going back and forth at each other with about 100 words of banter, followed by a play for the day. Whatever the best wagering opportunity they thought was, they'd be able to bet on it with a mythical $1,000 bankroll. There are a lot of names that have passed through there that a lot of horse racing people will be very familiar with. Ellis Starr had a couple of very good years before that section finally went off into the sunset. Jerry Bossard had a couple of very good years. Dave Little, who is now one of the main TV personalities over at the Meadowlands, did that for a while. Bill Finley from the TDN did that for years. Sherry Ross, who now does a lot of work for the NHL's New Jersey Devils, if I'm not mistaken, did it for a while as well. And I have a bankroll section complete with a blurb, a recap of the previous day's action, and a ticket for that day, along with some rationale as to what I'm doing. If you are on track, you can buy a pink sheet. You can get my analysis as well as the analysis of four other distinguished handicappers right in here for every race, every day. If you think that's easy, try it sometime. You'll be able to get my analysis inside, and you'll be able to get my bankroll play as well. If you are not on track, you can follow along at andrewchampagne.com. I'll have analysis up, generally speaking, a day in advance. So we're a week out from opening day as we record this. Opening day is a Thursday. On Tuesday, all of my stuff is going to be live. I'll wind up with Friday stuff up on Wednesday, Saturday stuff up on Thursday, etc. The only exception is going to be bankroll plays are going to, of course, need to wait until the previous day's action has concluded, because if they weren't able to wait and I could write them up in advance, I would never lose. I would not be here. I would have bought an island somewhere in the South Pacific and just be laughing at the general state of horse racing right now. At any rate, it's a lot of work, but man, it's a lot of fun, especially when hard work and success come together. I've been fortunate to be able to do some really cool stuff at this meet. I grew up going to this place. I've worked at this place in a number of different capacities. It's home for me. It's great to be able to go back for a couple of days out of every summer. And there are a couple of times at the conclusion of the meet where, for various reasons, I've been bawling my eyes out. It's fun, man. It's a lot of fun. And it's the reason we get into this game, is to have that kind of fun, to be right, and to be right on a big stage. It's so cool.
I'm gonna have to pitch that Battle of Saratoga idea to Mark and Caleb.
I stole it once. Feel free to steal it.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to them.
The biggest obstacle you're going to run into is Caleb has that program for really smart, really good looking people. So,
Yeah, I'm sure.
we're going to need to work around that.
I've thought, like I said, we have a very underutilized website. So I thought for a while of just doing one bet, like one win, just one straight win bet per day per person. So everyone just submits one horse they really like that day, and we just track it. For the entirety of the meet, one a day. That way, it's not like a huge. Well, I mean, you do have to go through the entire card, I guess, to find your best bet, but at least the writing portion isn't a huge burden. But I'll kick it. I'll kick the idea around. We got a little bit of time, and for me to post that, it doesn't take much
You've got
time.
a whole week. Yeah. I mean, it's
That's
not
plenty of
like you're
time.
completely flying on the seat of your pants with this.
No, you content. I mean, you guys who work in the media, for content. I mean, isn't this what you guys do?
No, we plan things out significantly far in advance. In my case, the editor of the pink sheet will tell you annoyingly far in advance.
I don't know, man. I've watched enough YouTube videos to know how. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna get into that. Writing is very hard. Writing is very hard. It requires a ton of thought. Um, and I today just today I was working on a PowerPoint presentation for this program I'm in, and I my job was to write one slide, and the amount of effort it took me to like type this out in a way that not just I understand. Like I'm not just typing in one note, in Josh speak. I'm like, I need to use words other people understand, and like put good sentences together, not Josh shorthand. So, um, yeah, us IT people aren't great writers or emailers either, probably. But
Yeah,
uh,
it is a lot of work. I mean, when you're analyzing that stuff, the first thing that a lot of public handicappers wish more people knew is you don't have to bet every race. We have to pick every race. You don't have to bet every race. And there are some races where if you read my stuff, chances are you can tell I don't have a strong opinion. But the stats show that I'm doing something right, Josh. Last year for the 2022 Saratoga meet, my little site, andrewchampagne.com, which I cooked up in a fit of rage 5 years prior for a story that is best told over several beers and or strong alcoholic beverages of your choice, got 30,000 hits from mid-July through Labor Day with no money behind it, and the only promotion being on my social media and occasionally through a blurb that you read in the pink sheet. I'm floored by the fact that people keep coming back, and whatever you think about some of the things I say or do, the numbers show I'm doing something right here.
I I cannot argue with that.
Thank you.
Mostly because I've never visited andrewchampagne.com. So
Oh, good. So I've got a new visitor. Okay. You, 1 times 40, that's 40. Okay. I'm expecting to at least get 40 views this season. And look, I don't know what a view total is going to be because we know Twitter is thoroughly a dumpster fire right now. I don't know how attractive that's going to be as far as reeling in an audience. We've got Threads that just launched. So I don't know if 30,000 is doable again, but I'm going to give it a good old college try.
um, it's funny. So today, Caleb, I don't know how this happened or what Caleb or how bored Caleb was at work, but he just in our private Discord chat was like, "Man, I kind of just want to spend an entire month in Saratoga." And the wheels started turning. Obviously, this is not this year or even next year at this point, but man, when you get 5 weeks vacation and an extra four floating holidays, 3 weeks in Saratoga doesn't seem impossible. So
Well,
we
you would
started.
need to, as my late grandfather would say, run it by the War Department first.
Yeah, I mean, yes, this would have to go through the War Department for
Pick
sure.
your battles.
But yeah, it was a fun idea. We started looking at places and stuff and just thinking about it, and like it's still it's expensive, but it would be very doable with some planning. Unlike my idea for a Saratoga contest among us, which I'll figure out in about 20 minutes. But um, that kind of segues into our next part, right? Which obviously I think the best part of the Saratoga meet isn't the racing. It's actually visiting Saratoga. And I'm not saying it's not the racing, like going to the track. I think being there in person, um, it's just something else. And you know, I obviously Arlington Park was uh, here and gone now at this point, but I always love visiting Arlington Park. But Arlington Park was very much a what I'll call stadium experience, right? You go in, there's grandstand, there's seats and everything like that, and your concessions are stadium style, right? You're getting hot dogs, hamburgers, and stuff. And except for the last year, I'm gonna put a little caveat: food there was very, very, very good. Uh, Ed DeRosa rated it some of his best racetrack food he's ever had. The last year was an absolute fucking joke what they did. Um, Cafeteria food is the way I would describe it. Real shame what happened there that last year, but I digress. But I would say Churchill Downs is very similar, uh, stadium stadium style, right? You got all your vendors outside and stuff, and so I'd only been to Arlington Park when I first went to Saratoga, and you know just the fact that I met Mark, we had a cooler full of beer. We went, we got, a sandwich, we rolled this fucking cooler in, and we just hung out in this like beautiful park like setting, TVs all around us, everybody betting the horses and just crushing beers and just having a great time. And it's just, it's unlike anything else, right? It's not like Keeneland, it's not like Arlington or Churchill. It's just its own thing. And um yeah, if you've never been, like, it's just such a cool experience. I will say, like we mentioned before, it's a little cost prohibitive now with some of the lodging. I've managed to go twice, keeping things to a minimum, but you had to make some sacrifices. But yeah, like the two times I've went, the first time I actually stayed in Albany, and I actually stayed by the airport, which is what 25-30 minutes to the track probably.
20 to 25 if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So um I got it was actually really funny because I didn't know I booked like through Expedia or Southwest Vacations or something, and I'm just looking for the cheapest hotel. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'll pick this one. And I think it ended up being, it was either a Hilton Garden Inn or a Holiday Inn Express. I forget which one, but it was right there, right off the airport. It was so close to the airport that when my Uber driver picked me up from the airport, we literally pulled out of the airport, which is not big, made a right hand turn, and I was at my hotel.
Yep.
To the point where my Uber driver just looks at me and starts laughing. I was like, I didn't know where I was going. Like, so I tipped him,
Yeah.
$5. It was like a $7 ride or something stupid. And
Yeah, I had a
um,
similar experience in Frankfurt, Germany, where I went to the Hilton Garden Inn, not knowing that there was an inside path to that. And this cab driver just basically took me around a circle, dumped me in front of the building, took my card, and threw it back at me.
oh man, but it was super nice. Mark was nice enough to pick me up once or twice, and the other times I Ubered. Now this was years ago. I think my Uber was like $35 each way, and this is important because so that's $70 a day. I saved probably about $150 a night staying in Albany. I think my hotel was like 80 or $85 a night. Now, mind you, this was years ago. I'm sure everything is way more expensive. I didn't look at this exact hotel. Um, but staying in Albany, especially if you rent a car. I know Caleb's dad always rents a car when he goes out there. Um, and especially if you're going with a group of people, it makes a ton of sense. Um, but then I stayed at Clifton Park most recently. I had a horrible experience at the
Yeah, we've
hotel.
we chronicled that on a past edition of Drank and Champagne. It did
Yeah,
not sound like fun.
no, and it's not necessarily the hotel's fault. I mean, obviously this was 2021. We were still very much recovering from pandemic, and yeah, it was just a different time. I'm not going to stay at the hotel again because I'm not going to chance that it wasn't just the times, but Clifton Park super close. That was like a 15-minute drive, and it was super easy. Um, it's kind of I don't know. I don't know a great way to describe Clifton Park, but there wasn't much there.
It's a
Um,
suburb. That's
yeah.
what it is. It's suburbia. There are things to do in Clifton Park, but there is a residential part of Clifton Park that has some of the hotels in it, and there's not a whole heck of a lot to do in those areas. But I lived in Clifton Park for a little while. I know my way around there a little bit. So it's not a bad place. It's suburbia.
hmm But I know you normally stay at Chez Champagne.
Yes, Chateau Champagne. Yes,
Yeah.
it's an exclusive Airbnb for one person. So, yeah, that works out okay. As far as horse racing people go, I don't have a lot of privilege. This is the one time where I do. My stay costs me $0.00 plus a resort fee of $0.00 a night. So, very, very grateful to my father for that. Now, that's an hour and a half away from the track. So, it's not like it's right around the corner, but at the same time, living in California has made long drives a lot easier because when you're in California and you're in the car for an hour and a half, there are times you're not going anywhere. So, an hour and a half in a car where you're actually going somewhere and making meaningful progress, that's nothing, man. So, that definitely helps. But you're absolutely right. If you want to be part of the scene in Saratoga and you want to stay in Saratoga, great, fantastic. More power to you. Expect to pay at a minimum $300 or $400 a night. And that's not necessarily for one of the better properties in town either. If you look at the Adelphi, which is on Broadway and is a very nice property, one of the restaurants that I'll talk about in our eating segment is actually in the Adelphi. I very much like that place. When they reopened, they wanted $800 a night. No, just no. It's quickly becoming a place with a bunch of hotels that, if you have to ask what it costs to stay there for a night, you probably can't afford it.
Yeah, I do see the Holiday Inn at Saratoga Springs is $500 a night currently.
In
Um,
fairness, it's a nice Holiday Inn. I've stayed there.
yeah, it's let me see if I can pull this up. And I know like obviously I'm looking in like mid-August, so at least a month out.
Right.
Most of the stuff is booked by this point, but yeah, like the airport that I stayed at or the hotel I stayed at before is $162 a night. And that's the one at Albany. Clifton Park you're looking at about 200.
Yeah, the
So,
closer you get to Saratoga, the more expensive it's going to get for you. So,
yeah. But Yeah, and like I said, once you get into Saratoga, you're looking $300 to $500 a night easy. I know I know there's Airbnbs and stuff. I've never done those, but I know other people have, with some success, depending on how early they book.
Yeah. I've used booking.com for my overseas adventures. That worked fine. There are alternative options that are out there, but generally speaking, the closer you are to the track, the more you're going to pay. Shocker, I know. We're really delivering some hard hitting analysis here. Trust me, it gets better.
Yeah. Um, food,
Food.
food and or drink. We'll combine these. I know Andrew, you're not much of a drinker, but
There was milk in here to give you an idea.
oh god, but I know you've been known to have a beer or a cocktail every once in a while, so I'm sure you might have some things to say. But all right, uh, if you had somebody coming in for 2 days and they were only going to get dinner at one place, where would you send them?
Does it matter if they've won or lost at the track that day?
No.
I would probably say, just for the sake of it's in a good spot, there's a lot of places around if you want to go bar hopping. I mentioned the Adelphi Hotel earlier. There's a place in there called Morrissey's. Morrissey's is one of the newer restaurants in the area. Of course, it was part of the hotel that just got renovated, right? But had a great dinner there last year when I was there. It's not far from the racetrack. If you want to go up and down Broadway at all hours of the evening, you can do that. You definitely also want to stop in at the Parting Glass. The Parting Glass got saved after the pandemic, and that's a good thing because in its heyday, there were very few places in Saratoga that were cooler than the Parting Glass, which was voted one of the top 10 Irish pubs outside of Ireland. That bar was about 20 steps outside of the Saratogian's office when I worked for the Saratogian. So that was a frequent place where we would go after work to, either forget what had happened or celebrate what happened, depending on how the previous day at work went. But there are a bunch of cool little places that you can stumble on. And honestly, that's probably the best piece of advice I could give you. You can go to the trendy places. You can go to the places that everybody on social media recommends, all of the Instagram friendly spots, and there are a lot of them, and you can have a good time. But for me personally, as a traveler, the best experiences I've had have basically been flying blind and going, okay, where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? And stumbling into some really cool situations. And there's a lot of really cool places in Saratoga that you can do that with. Now, as far as drinking in Saratoga goes, the thing you must drink in Saratoga is not a cocktail. It is not anything you can get in a bar.
Oh god, I know where you're going.
If you go into the track and you walk into the backyard, you will see near the paddock a white building with a red roof called the Big Red Spring. It is a rite of passage for everyone the first time they go to Saratoga to indulge in a cup of the Big Red Spring water. If you know, you know. Hi, Joe Nevels. How you doing?
I've never had it. Uh, I've just heard too many too many just like nightmare situation, or just I don't know, man. I just can't.
Needed to bring that up. If we're talking about drinking anything in Saratoga, that's a layup. My fiance went with me back in 2021. We took a red eye, got there for Four-Star Dave Day, and then the next day flew back home. It was crazy, but I wound up taking video of her doing that, and I may very well need to recycle that ahead of the 2023 meet. Again, we've been through this. With regard to this woman, skip all of the steps and just make her a saint now.
Man, it's funny because you mentioned Irish pub, and we ate at an Irish pub in Saratoga Springs downtown, but I don't remember what the name of it was.
Must have been a good Irish pub then.
There's multiples, right?
Oh, there's a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember what it is,
the
but
other thing that I will say, and you mentioned how staying in Clifton Park or Albany can sometimes be a better option. There are
mhm,
plenty of places to eat in Albany and Clifton Park. I'm a big fan of Delmonico's Italian Steakhouse, specifically the Central Avenue location in Latham, just north of Albany. That is a really cool spot with some very, very good food at prices that don't break the bank. They have a Delmonico steak that is a pound and a half of meat that used to be sold for somewhere like 16, 17 bucks. Of course, prices have gone up,
mhm.
but it's a really good place to get a nice big cut of meat and some good pasta. So that's certainly some place that I happily recommend.
Yeah, I have 3 places written down, that I've been to multiple times, or I've been to 2 of them multiple times and 1, um, once, and I wanna go back. Um, so it just depends on what you want. If you wanna run into Andy Serling, I suggest you go to Hamlet and Ghost. And there is, have you eaten there before, Andrew?
I have not. No,
Okay.
if it's trendy, chances are I haven't.
Yeah, it's kind of trendy. Food there is very good. They have a very good cocktail menu. Um, if you've seen, there's a picture of me, um, after a couple of drinks sitting next to a drink with a lime flaming, that for some reason Mark thought would be hilarious to take a picture of. Yeah, that's where we were, Hamlet and Ghost, and sure enough, Andy's got his own little spot at the bar. I guess he eats there a lot. Um, Something a little bit more low key. How about the local? Been there before?
A long time ago.
We've been there a couple times, and just always have great food there. And they have a nice beer list, especially for somebody who enjoys beer. And a lot of New York stuff doesn't necessarily get out to Chicago, so able to try a bunch of different stuff there. So that's a really cool spot. Forno,
Forno was not someplace that I had gone.
okay. Forno's good. It's on Broadway. It's kind of off the beaten path. It's all the way at the end of kind of like downtown. It's kind of by itself a little bit. So sometimes you can sneak in pretty easily. Mark and I have been there a couple times, and we've gotten in there without a problem, which can very much be a problem during the Saratoga meet,
Yeah,
getting in
pro tip
anywhere.
before we go much further, make reservations
Yep.
and keep them. It bothers the heck out of me when people don't plan ahead and they just stumble into restaurants and all of a sudden there's a 90-minute wait and people act appalled. Make your reservations, plan ahead, take the 10 minutes, download Open Table, get the points when you make your reservations. You can redeem those for gift cards down the line. Yes, definitely make reservations. And there's one other place, Josh, that I missed that I just want to go back to.
Hmm.
When the Saratogian was in business and had an office right in the heart of downtown Saratoga Springs, it was on 20 Lake Avenue. What now inhabits 20 Lake Avenue is the Walton Whitman Brewing Company, which is a fantastic place that you can walk into. It's this two-floor bar. It's a really cool thing that embraces the history of the building and the surrounding racetrack. If you happen to receive a call from nature when you're there, this is my favorite part. Open the door to the bathroom, and there's old pink sheets lining the walls. And by the way, if you're thinking, wait a minute, does that mean Andrew's picks are in the toilet? Yes. Yes, they are. And you are not the first person to make that joke. Thank you. Thank you
Congratulations to
very much.
everybody who's made that joke before I could. Yeah. As far as like drinking, yeah, like I said, Hamlin Ghost got a really good cocktail place. If you want to just go somewhere immediately after the races, I mean, you got to go to Ciro's, right?
Ciro's or the Horseshoe. The
Yeah.
Horseshoe is sort of eclipsed it as the partying place to be. But Ciro's has so much history to that place. I mean, that's where Harvey Pack and Andy Serling would do their handicapping seminars. You'd get guest appearances from handicappers of considerable renown. There's so many cool places, man. And you got to work to find some of them. But when you find your place that's your jam, it feels really good.
Now I know a place that you've definitely never been.
Where's that?
Desperate Annie's.
No, never been.
Funny, it's just this tiny little dive bar that's got like the Gary, our friend, was we were walking into this place after going to Hamilton Ghost, and he was wearing, I believe it was a hate breed, um, like button up, and he got a bunch of compliments walking into this place. Just to tell you what type of place this is, uh, and I just remember there was a show at what it was at Spock, right?
SPAC,
SPAC,
Saratoga
yeah.
Performing Arts Center.
So just a bunch of people wearing like white stuff. Like everyone was in all white, just came in to this place, and you could tell that it would. These people were like all the other bars are packed, so they started piling here, and you just can see the regular like the just the look of horror on all these regulars to the point where me and Gary were sitting there drinking beers, and I look over the corner, and this guy calls a server over and is like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Like, just like just going crazy. But it was just a tiny little dive bar with a pool table. Gary and I just hung out there for, and it was
So,
fun.
if we're talking about dive bars, my favorite urban legend about Saratoga Springs is that allegedly, depending on who you ask, this is another one of those references that I don't know if Josh is going to get, folks. So you're just going to need to bear with me here. Allegedly, Don McLean wrote American Pie at the Tin and Lint in Saratoga. The Tin and Lint, when I was a sports writer at the Saratogian, had a special where you could get a Coors Light for $1.50. And you have no idea who Don McLean is, do you?
I know I've been to Tin and Lint though.
Yep, Tin and Lint is it's a divey dive bar.
Yeah, I think Gary played some pool against some exercise riders there.
That doesn't shock me.
Because it's like it's like a basement, right?
Yeah, it's basically looks like a college house party.
Oh, yep, totally.
Yeah.
That's exactly the place.
I mean, you got a pool table there. When I went a couple of times when I worked for the Saratogian, there were beer pong games that were going on. Yeah, it was a special place, but allegedly one of the most well-known songs in the history of American music may have been written there.
Cool. Well, hopefully you guys got something out of that. If you got a trip planned, or maybe you've been there and you want to ridicule us with, hey, this place sucks, or hey, maybe you want to let us know a place we missed. Go ahead, comment, send us a message on Twitter. Let us know what you
Send
thought.
us a message on Thread if they figured out how to do that. I know they don't do hashtags there. I figured that out the hard way, but yeah.
But Andrew, what do you got going on this weekend?
So this weekend is the final weekend of the Alameda County Fair in Pleasanton, California, and there's a lot of fun stuff going on. I've got 2 handicapping seminars coming up, and you're going to have a laugh at this one on Saturday. Have you heard of the Mean Girls Racing Stable?
Mm-mm.
So there's an owner by the name of John Tipton, and both of his daughters are getting into horse racing ownership. They are younger than me. They have an Instagram page out there. It doesn't take much effort to find it. And they are joining us for the handicapping seminar on Saturday afternoon at 12:30 outside the grandstand at the Alameda County Fairgrounds. On Sunday, that has quite possibly the biggest day of racing in recent Northern California history at Pleasanton. They are running for the first time the $150,000 Pleasanton Mile. The Everett Nevin Stakes for 2-year-olds is also on tap. Last year, that was won by a horse that went on to win the Sorrento at Del Mar. that race has produced some pretty darn good 2-year-olds that have gone on to do some pretty impressive things. A couple of very good cards lined up for the weekend. I believe FanDuel TV is sending Joaquin Jaime up for Sunday's card as well. A lot of good racing on tap. I'm personally very happy that the triple digit heat wave is gone. Triple digit heat in Pleasanton is real and it's not pleasant. But if you're looking for a track to handicap, take a look at Pleasanton. There's some good races coming up this coming weekend. And then we're on to Saratoga, and it feels like it snuck up on us, and it's here. And I'm pretty happy about that. Pretty excited that I will be at Saratoga in a month for a couple of days. And hopefully we can put forth another really strong summer, make some people a lot of money, and undeniably piss a few people off just by existing. Yeah, I know. Trust me. I've paid for a lot of really weird shit the last couple of days.
Well, yep, we'll be doing our live stream obviously Thursday night, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, covering the Belmont card, and we might touch on some of the derbies going on, Indiana and Iowa.
I'll
We'll
save
see
you
what we
some
have
time.
time.
Mark likes Charge It.
Mark does like charge it in the Suburban, but we'll see. We got some nice turf races coming. With some Euro shipping over, so should be a fun card. I don't know why I continue to bet Belmont when I made like $1,000 at Cinnabon tonight, but it is what it is. But yeah, we'll have our stream, and then yeah, we'll figure out. We're gonna try and do some extra stuff for Saratoga meet. Mark loves it. Andrew loves it. Caleb hates it. Um, Caleb actually much prefers Del Mar. I think betting wise, but he's never been.
Here's the teaser for you. You know what the difference is between Saratoga and Del Mar?
Hmm.
One of those tracks built my career, the other actively tried to destroy it.
God, I keep on forgetting that.
At some point, it's going to take at least one person either retiring or passing away. That story comes out. That's going to be a fun interview. That's going to be one where the pre show meeting is just roll tape.
Oh no. Well, while we wait for, I guess, that exclusive to come out, catch us at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter, at Andrew Champagne, at Cherry Drank for myself. Let's have a weekend, guys. Oh, there's a tea kettle. See you guys later.